Good morning. Welcome to DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm Steve Cooper, and I serve as the Director of Religious Education in this community of caring and of justice seekers. Many of the people watching this service with you found a spiritual home here after searching for a place that's caring and welcoming of our individual gifts. What we share here is not an unchanging dogma, but an affirmation that we are called to be agents of love and justice, and to build a world where everyone is cherished for who they are. Doing that requires us, we who have privilege, to use our voices, our courage, and our resources to dismantle oppression in all of its forms. We are glad you're able to find us and join us for this live stream service today. Please check the church website at www.dupageuchurch.org for information about our church, or search under DuPage UU Church on Facebook to find a number of ways to be in community with us as well.
Today and each Sunday, join us for our Zoom social time following the service from 11:30 to 12. Socialize with friends old and new and ponder a question as we break into small groups. We hope to see you there. The Zoom link can be found on the Members tab of our website, the order of service, and in the weekly email. We would love for you to join us today at noon for Science Sunday. Check the website for today's topic. Join us with our YouTube link that appears on the church website homepage, the same link used to join the service.
I light all chalice for the words and deeds of prophetic people who challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love.
Let us wake up, not just from the Sunday morning exhaustion, from the wish for a few more drowsy minutes in bed. Let us wake up to this world we live in, to its beauty and wonder, and also to its tragedy and pain. We must wake up to this reality that not all in our world have what we do, however much or little that is. We must wake up to the idea that our wholeness, our lives, are only as complete as the lives of those around us, of those we are inextricably tied to in a great web of mutuality of which we are all a part. We must #stay woke, in the words of our friends and colleagues involved in Black Lives Matter, working every day for racial justice in our country. Let us wake up. Let us stay awake. Let us #stay woke. And now, in this time and place, let us worship together.
Please join me in reciting the following reading. Spirit of life, we have come here today to remember what some are intent on making us forget. To remember a man who fought to end segregation. To remember a man who marched to counter prejudice and oppression. To remember a man who was filled with peace and hope. To remember a man with promise and a dream. To remember a man with a voice that rang out for justice and freedom. All these things we remember and honor in the legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and a life well lived in service to all. May it be so.
Please join us in our song of affirmation.
It is time to gather. This weekend, we celebrate the birth of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and acknowledge his lifetime achievements. Observed each year on the third Monday in January, MLK Day is the only federal holiday designated as a national day of service. And it's to encourage all Americans to volunteer to improve their communities. The Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service is a defining moment each year when Americans across the country step up to make our communities more equitable and take action to create the beloved community of Dr. King's dream. While Dr. King believed that beloved community was possible, he acknowledged and he fought for systemic change. His example is our call to action. AmeriCorps has been charged with leading this effort for the past 25 years. And making time to volunteer for MLK Day of Service is a great way to engage with your community while honoring the legacy of Dr. King. Whether you plan on cleaning up a public space, mentoring a young person, or assisting those who are food insecure, what you do makes a world of difference. So ideally, as a church, we would work together on a specific justice project for our community. However, the pandemic overruled our ability to work together. So the Youth Religious Education Committee, with team member Nell Haslett-Bruce leading the way, gathered resources to provide our church community with opportunities to participate in the National Day of Service. There's a link to these resources in the order of service and in the description of this video on YouTube. And these resources offer links and ideas for families or individuals to provide service. And as you can see, these don't need to be difficult activities. There are possible local places to donate to, whether it be money or items such as food or classroom supplies. And there's resources for learning online, discussion topics for reflection, and experiential learning. You can also visit the AmeriCorps MLK Day website at mlkday.gov for many more ideas. And from the MLK Day website, you can enter your zip code, and they will provide you with literally hundreds of opportunities in our area to provide service. The AmeriCorps website is full of resources and ideas to participate in this day of service. So we hope that our church can be a beacon of light in our community as we help to build a more equitable and just community to underpin racial equity, expand civic opportunities, and foster respect for individual differences. And through our work, each individual light from our church members combines to make that beacon shine. Please join us in singing hymn number 118, This Little Light of Mine.
Let it Please join Ben and me in the following responsive reading. Your words will appear on the screen as you read along with Ben. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied to a single garment of destiny.
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
There are some things in our social system to which all of us ought to be maladjusted.
Hatred and bitterness can never cure the disease of fear. Only love can do that.
We must evolve for all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation.
The foundation of such a method is love.
Before it is too late, we must narrow the gaping chasm between our proclamations of peace and our lowly deeds which precipitate and perpetuate war.
One day, we must come to see that peace is not merely a distant goal that we seek, but a means by which we arrive at that goal.
We must pursue peaceful ends through peaceful means.
We shall hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope.
This is In Real Time by Jeannie Shiro. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Let the only burning be the fire of commitment in our hearts, minds, hands, spirits, in our community of faith. Live solidarity. Use your voice. Demand justice. Better, live it into being. Cry out for others to join you. Name hate as hate without shrinking back, without letting embarrassment or false humility or resistance or apologies for white skin get in the way. Direct all that energy to action, standing with and speaking out. Be impassioned. Imagine the cry for response if our predominantly white church burned and people said, "Well, that's too bad. Reminds me of another time. I heard that said from a human mouth." But that would not happen. Ours is not a black church. For us, the press would cover the story and swarm over it for days on end. Why is it different for our sister churches, black churches? About that, be indignant. About the violent ending of so many black lives. Precious, precious, precious lives. Say it for every time life has been taken. You'd never stop speaking. Be outraged. About the burning of houses of worship, sanctuaries of the Spirit, sacred communal spaces, be awakened. Racism is alive. It will never die of old age, ancient though it is. Rather, it must be buried by human awakening to equality incarnate. Participate in the movement. Call out those perpetuating violence against black people and black communities. Demand action from those in power, the press, government, and everywhere the story is not being told. Live differently. How? Find out together. Struggle to awaken. Hashtag stay woke. There's no safe place from which to simply observe. All are already involved. Listen more often than speaking, and speak more often than being silent, even when your words or actions could change the world even just a bit, in the flesh, in real time.
Please join us in singing hymn number 95, There is More Love Somewhere.
There is more
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and poet Langston Hughes maintained a friendship for many years. The following is a poem written by Langston Hughes titled, "I Dream a World." You may notice where Dr. King got his idea for the famous "I Have a Dream" speech. I dream a world where man no other man will scorn, where love will bless the earth and peace its path adorn. I dream a world where all will know sweet freedom's way, where greed no longer saps the soul, nor avarice blights the day. A world I dream where black or white, whatever race you be, will share the bounties of the earth, and every man is free. Where wretchedness will hang its head and joy, like a pearl, attends the needs of all mankind. Of such I dream my world.
The January special collection will benefit DUC's SMILE project. The SMILE project is designed to provide mentoring and work experience to high school students who are not the top of their class, nor in the bottom quarter, but those who could use encouragement and help to prepare for entering the workforce after high school. We are also attempting to offer our congregation a means to help reduce racism in our community by creating opportunities for business people in our community to create relationships between themselves and young people of color. We have mentored 36 students, impacted 18 business groups, including 2 police departments. In addition, family members from each student have felt the effects of these experiences and have the leaders of the 4 high schools which the students have attended.
Extremes of Justice by Martin Luther King Jr. The ultimate weakness of violence is that it is a descending spiral, begetting the very thing it seeks to destroy. Instead of diminishing evil, it multiplies it. Through violence, you may murder the liar, but you cannot murder the lie, nor establish the truth. Through violence, you murder the hater, but you do not murder hate. In fact, violence merely increases hate. Returning violence for violence multiplies violence, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. The question is not whether we will be extremists, but what kind of extremists we will be. Will we be extremists for hate or for love? Will we be extremists for the preservation of injustice or for the extension of justice?
Oh, let us turn our thoughts today to Martin Luther King and recognize that there are ties between us, all men and women living on the earth, ties of hope and love, of sister and brotherhood, that we are bound together in our desires to see the world become a place in which our children can grow free and strong. We are bound together by the task that stands before us and the road that lies ahead. We are bound and we are bound. There is a feeling like a clenching of a fist. There is a hunger at the center of the chest. There is a passage through the darkness and the mist. Though the body sleeps, the heart will never rest. Shed a little light, oh Lord,
so that we can see.
oh yeah,
Just a little light, oh Lord.
just a little light, oh Lord,
Wanna stand it on up.
standing on up, oh
Standing on up,
Lord, oh stand on up, Lord,
Wanna walk it on down.
shed a little light, oh Lord.
Can't get no light from the dollar bill.
See me no light from the dollar bill.
Don't give me no light from the TV screen.
No, no, no.
When I open my eyes, I wanna drink my fill from the well on the hill.
Do you know what I mean?
Shed a little light, oh Lord,
Shed a little light, oh Lord.
so that we can see.
Oh yeah.
Just a little light, oh Lord.
Just a little light, oh Lord.
Wanna stand it on up.
Stand on up, oh
Stand it on up,
Lord.
oh
Stand on up, Lord.
Wanna walk it on down.
Shed a little light, oh Lord. Shed a little light, oh Lord. There is a feeling like a clenching of a fist. There is a hunger at the center of the chest. Oh, there is a passage through the darkness and the mist. And though the body sleeps, the heart will never rest. Oh, let us turn our thoughts today to Martin Luther King and recognize that there are ties between us, all men and women living on the earth, ties of hope and love.
Thank you, Jim, Cully, Becky, and Vera. It's beautiful. Martin Luther King's unparalleled contributions to racial justice for Black Americans have been revolutionary. On Martin Luther King Jr. Day, or MLK Day, schools and offices are closed with the idea that people fully participate in remembering and honoring everything King has accomplished. His values and historical place in American history are discussed and advocated to educate communities and coming generations on the importance of equality and King's influence. Movies and documentaries of his life are shown, and businesses and organizations run by and for the Black community are shown some support. So we have provided you with some ideas on how to participate in this day of service. But I want to highlight the power of experience. And I want to talk about privilege. And the social justice definition of privilege is defined as the advantage people have that they don't often think about because they never have to experience the oppressive side. Understanding it requires an active effort to see things from the perspective of other underprivileged people. And there's an exercise that has been done on college campuses and during corporate sensitivity trainings, and it's called the Privilege Walk. And it works like this. All participants line up in a horizontal line, and the facilitator reads out statements, and people move according to whether the statement is true for them or not. And the statements have to do with privilege, typically all different aspects, but sometimes centered on a theme. And the statements may be something like, take a step forward if you were raised by two parents. Or take a step back if you've wondered where your next meal was coming from. Take a step forward if you're comfortable holding your partner's hand in public. Take a step back if people accuse you of using the wrong bathroom, and etc. And after the statements are read, sometimes there's a final prompt like, now see who can cross the finish line first. Or sometimes the activity simply closes. And sometimes, not all the time, the facilitators will debrief the activity and ask how people felt. What was the activity like? What's it meant to represent? Sometimes there is no debrief, and folks are left to reflect on their experiences alone. Now, many people have different experiences and thoughts when it comes to privilege walks. And many folks, both those with highly marginalized experiences and those with a lot of privilege, dislike this activity a lot. But others find it enlightening and eye-opening. And one thing Privilege Walks does really well is create opportunities for us to get real with the people we are with about our history and experiences. When done with an intact group, like a class in a school or a team in a business, it can create ways into conversation that may be hard or take longer to get to otherwise. The downside of this activity is that participants who have less privilege are asked to publicly share many of their experiences of being marginalized, so that people like me, who have a lot of privilege, can experience that and can learn from the differences. And although it is a powerful experience for those of us with a lot of privilege, it can feel like a shame-riddled experience. I've actually experienced that a couple years ago when I took an anti-oppression, anti-racism, multiculturalism workshop. And I was the only middle-aged, white, male, cisgender, able-bodied person in the group. All categories that represent privilege. I felt like I had to apologize. Of course, no learning activity is perfect, but one that I have come across recently that allows you to role play privilege versus being marginalized. And this activity is the game Monopoly, but played with new rules. And you can find the link for this in the resources that we provided. This version of Monopoly is an action teaching game that modifies the classic Monopoly board game to explore the dynamics of group-based inequality. In the game, players begin with unequal amounts of money and are given individualized rules to reflect during differing degrees of privilege or disadvantage. In the first phase of the game, and this is the open discrimination phase, students are randomly assigned, or players are randomly assigned to one of 5 positions, the banker and players 1 through 4. The banker is essentially an observer, and player 1 plays according to normal Monopoly rules, and player 2 and player 3 are overtly disadvantaged, and player 4 is privileged relative to other players. So for instance, player 4 receives $350 for passing go, well above the standard $200, and is permitted to buy houses and hotels 2 for 1. Player 2 has rules such as you can only move half the amount you roll, and you can only buy property priced less than $150. A little bit of redlining on the Monopoly board. Likewise, player 3 has rules such as you will go directly to jail for rolling a number higher than 7. So the main difference between players 2 and 3 is that player 3 spends most of the time in jail. And during this phase, players 2 and 3 typically lose money rapidly and often become demoralized. And if players lose all their money and property, the game does not end. Instead, they go into debt, and the banker records the level of debt. After playing the game for about 25 minutes, we move into phase 2, equal opportunity. And in the second phase, which lasts 5 or 10 minutes longer than the first phase, all forms of unequal treatment are ended. And at this point, everyone plays by normal Monopoly rules. So the title, Equal Opportunity, is somewhat ironic because players quickly discover that their opportunities are far from equal. Even with additional time spent under conditions of equality, formerly disadvantaged players continue to decline and struggle with debt. And this can lead to a discussion about how to effectively address the enduring effects of prior group-based disadvantages. If you're playing this game with younger kids, I do recommend that you not play this game to win, but rather to learn from it, because it is a very unfair game.
Our closing hymn is known as the Black National Anthem, and it is, in the words of Aisha Ensano, a very, very powerful song. But it's often sung without context, and at times it's sung without a lot of intentionality. These are Aisha's words. It's easy to open the hymnal and sing along without necessarily processing what we're saying, what the words we're saying really mean. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Bitter the chastening rod felt in the days when hope unborn had died. We have come over a way with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. This song deserves to be sung with attention. It is a song that starkly names the horrors and violence of racism in this country. It is a song that should make us uncomfortable. uncomfortable with the history that it calls upon, uncomfortable with the fact that the struggle for racial justice continues and has not come quite so far as it should have by now. How can anyone sing the words, treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered, without a deep, deep discomfort? So when we sing this song, will you join me in singing with intentionality? Will you join me in the deep discomfort that I will be feeling in singing those words? Discomfort with the pain and horror that those words refer back to, and discomfort with the fact that those words do not only refer to a distant history, but also to what is happening now. Will you commit to singing with your own discomfort, to sitting with your own discomfort, and then will you tap into that discomfort and do something? Will you lift your voice and sing until earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty? Join us in singing hymn number 149, Lift Every Voice and Sing.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening stars. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn has died. Yet with a steady beat, and not our weary feet, come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out of the gloom we burst, and now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weariness, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast led thy might, let us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand.
we shall overcome. When we can truly celebrate the diversity of contributions and talents offered by all people, we shall overcome hatred and prejudice and oppression. When we can truly extend our hands to one another in loving acceptance, we shall overcome the past that haunts us now. Living in peace and freedom, we shall overcome the wrongs that have happened and the debts left unpaid. Let us join together in that commitment to overcome. Let us say together, Amen.